Hi, welcome back to Have Roots, Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, we've been focusing our attention on les filles du roi and les filles à marier, two groups of women who truly defined New France and the founding of not only Quebec or Canada, but also North America. We are exploring each and every one of these ladies who left descendants and truly made a difference in many of our lives. And before we begin, let me show you ways you can help the channel. Subscribe, like, and notify are absolutely things that you can do. And I so appreciate each and every one of you that are subscribed. We're almost going to hit 1,900 very shortly. And I'm hoping for 2,000 by the year's end. So thank you so much for all of you. I really appreciate your support. Today we're going to look at episode 280, Francoise Barbary. She comes to us from a viewer request. I did not have her in my files, so let's get to know Francoise a little bit better. Francoise was born in 1651 in Paris, France. Her parents were René Barbary and Michel Maingré. Now, she would have been baptized at the Church of Saint-Sulpice, which is a wonderful church and is only second in size to the Notre Dame, so you can imagine. It is dedicated to Sulpicius the Pious. The construction of the present building, the second church on this site, began in 1646. So look at that. She is 1651. She was there right when it was just being rebuilt. And it is found in the 6th arrondissement, which is also known as Luxembourg, which is an extremely cultural and educational area of Paris. And it is referred to as le 6e, the 6th arrondissement. And it's in reference, the Luxembourg is in reference to the seat of the Senate and its garden, which is situated on the rive gauche, the left bank of the River Seine. It includes world-famous educational institutions as well as just a lot of some of the more famous monuments. So it's really, really one of the, the elegant places. When you think of Paris, you're really thinking of the 6th arrondissement. And it is renowned for being the places where Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, among others, would have hung out, so you can imagine that kind of cultural background, and that is where she's coming from. Obvious why she would come to New France. We do not know if her parents had died. We do know that she came with her with goods worth an estimated 300 pounds as a dowry. So it is clear that she had some resources behind her to be able to make this journey, and she arrived on July 3rd, 1668, at the very tender age of about 17, and she was aboard the ship La Nouvelle France. Françoise would go on to stay at La Maison Saint-Gabriel in Montreal. Let's talk a little bit about this amazing place that I just visited a few weeks ago. Marguerite Bourgeois was the founder of the Congregation de Notre-Dame de Montréal. She was by far the most influential woman in Quebec history. She was born in France in 1620, and in 1653 she was invited to come to New France and establish a religious congregation and a school by none other than Paul de Chamardy, Sœur de Maisonneuve, the governor of the French settlement. She established that Notre Dame congregation and helped organize not only the congregation and the church, but also allowed her to use a stable as the first schoolhouse. And this in turn became the very first public school in Montreal. And by 1663, she continued her work with the Filles du Roi by using the farm she had purchased on Pointe Saint-Charles to feed the poor and create a source of revenue for the church. Here she would instruct the ladies on their new lives, how to cook and sew and deal with the harshness of living in Canada. And she would go on to continue her education with the Filles du Roi and the rest of Montreal until her death, creating so many educational and religious institutions. And truly, she was one of the people that helped the struggling town of Ville-Marie, as it was called, become the mighty Montreal. She was made a saint too. So you can see, those of you who have Francoise as an ancestor or great grandma also have the connection to Marguerite. And so obviously Francoise would have known Marguerite. And so I just always like to let you know the people that they interact with, because history is not a vacuum. So this is part of her story. And the Maison Gabrielle really does look like that. And when I visited this past August, it was amazing, amazing trip. And I'll be posting, hopefully, a video on that shortly. But to say that taking the tour, if this is your ancestry, and only about 35, I believe it's 35 or 36 ladies actually stayed at this particular institution, the Maison Saint Gabriel, because there were much fewer people going to Montreal. And but it would resemble very much what the girls in Quebec City or Trois-Rivières would have dealt with as well. So it's very important. Please take the opportunity, if you have it, to go and tour Maison Saint Gabriel. And I've got a link to the museum in the notes as well for you to enjoy. The groom that she would select and who selected her, his name René Dardin. He was born in 1642 in La Rochelle, France. His parents were Pierre Dardin and Ginette Chenier. Now, La Rochelle was founded during the 10th century and became an important harbor in the 12th. Until the 15th century, La Rochelle was to be the largest French harbor on the Atlantic coast, dealing mainly in wine, salt, and cheese. The name was recorded in 961 as Rupella, which meant Little Rock, La Rochelle. And La Rochelle truly has one of the richest histories of all the towns of France, from its beginnings as an area where the Knights of Templar had their strongest base. Eleanor married Henry Plantagenet in 1152, who became King of England as Henry II in 1154, thus putting La Rochelle under Plantagenet rule until Louis VIII captured it in the 1224 siege of La Rochelle. During the British rule, the English rule of the city, Henry II had the Vauclair Castle built in 1185, portions of which still remain in the Place de Verdun if you visit. From 1568, La Rochelle became a center for the Huguenots. And it was truly in La Rochelle that the Protestant Revolution occurred and created the uprising that would become known as the Siege of La Rochelle. Now, we do not know if René and his family were Protestant. I do know that he was baptized in the church or he was part of Saint Jean du Perrot. This church existed in the 14th century. It was built in the 14th, almost completely demolished in the 15th, and finally by 1887 it was destroyed, and only the bell tower remains. I don't think they were Protestant, but certainly the uprisings and all the instability, I would suspect, is one of the reasons why they would have fled to New France. New France as of 1662, and he came with his father, who was widowed, and his older brother Pierre. And so he was 16 years old as of the 1667 census. So they are there in Montreal. So let's have a look at how he and Francoise get together. So Francoise had a very interesting approach to the altar. By October 9th, 1668, she had contracted a marriage with a man named Etienne Paquet. Unfortunately, that was annulled. And Etienne would go on to marry Henriette Rousseau, a fellow fille du roi, who we've actually profiled. By November 1st, she had her sights on someone else. And it was signed at La Maison Saint Gabriel. Don't forget, these gentlemen were coming to the Maison Saint Gabriel. They were being escorted in. They were they would plead their case, they would sell their wares, and the girls would make up their minds. And that was what was so fascinating about Les Filles du Roi and that whole program, is that they had power. They finally were able to say, yeah, no, I don't want this one. Or this one's good, but this one's better. So the fact that they were able to do that is just a wonderful kind of affirmation of, femaleness, if you will. And so I always like those stories. I imagine that it's her that changed her mind and not Etienne. But, time will tell. By November 12th, 1668, René and Francoise were married at Montreal. So they would settle here at Montreal. Let's talk a little bit about this wonderful city. It was started off as Ville-Marie, the town of Marie, and would become the mighty Montreal. The founder, Paul de Chemin-des-Sœurs de Maisonneuve, was essentially building a missionary center and founded it in May of 1642. The colony had so much difficulty and it would not thrive. And it was on the verge of extinction when Chaminade decided to return to France to recruit 100 settlers who would be known as Le Grand Recru. From this small group would evolve the Notre Dame Congregation of Sister Marguerite Bourgeois, whom we talked about. It was an amazing, amazing place. Now, don't forget, we have Quebec City and Trois-Rivières who are going strong. And this little tiny town village that they would call on an island, they kind of were, kind of a laughing stock and kind of a place where no one wanted to go. But those who were brave enough and sturdy enough to go and basically conquer the elements on this island would reap for many, many years. And so ultimately, the fact that it was on an island was part of the reason why it had such a hard time defending itself from the native population. And it was ultimately its greatest strength because of the fact that it was surrounded by water. You could get to it with ships, and it would become an extraordinary, extraordinary important place in terms of the buying and selling, and that's why Montreal is one of the major cities of the world today. But it didn't start out that way. So here we have a picture on the left of what is known as Le Vieux Montréal, the old Montreal, and it really, I was just there, it really is an amazing place. We have in the middle the Notre Dame Cathedral. And this is an artist's illustration of the fort of Montreal. We have Montreal skyline, which is amazing. And we have a depiction of the Church of Notre Dame as it would have existed in the 1800s. And then, of course, you can see here on the map how Montreal really is that island. We then move to Repentigny, which was founded in 1670 by Jean-Baptiste Legardeur, son of the Seigneur Pierre Legardeur. And during the town's first 250 years, Repentigny was only inhabited by about 30 people until about 1677. It was only in 2002 when Repentigny merged with the city of Legardeur on June 1st, 2002, that the city's areas doubled in size and the population grew by 70%. And I want to show you, this means premier dénombrant de Repentigny. So these are the very, very first people who inhabited Repentigny. And there's our guy, René Desjardins. He is there as one of the founding families, if you will. And just really nice. And I've also included a link to the website of Repentigny that lists all of some more information about the founding families and things like that. So have a look at that. Go on to have 10 children. Francoise would pass away at the age of 2. Toussaint would marry Marie-Jeanne Mézeray, but did not leave any. Pierre would also pass away at 2 years of age. Gilbert, we don't have any more information on. Françoise would marry Marc-Antoine Olivier and leave no descendants. Marianne would pass away at the age of 8 years of age. Marie-Angélique married François Jérôme de la Tour and would have 9 children, 8 of whom would make it to adulthood. Marguerite would marry Nicolas Le Houx and would have 9 children, 6 of whom made it to adulthood. Then we have Jacques, who died in infancy. And finally, Marie-Catherine, who married Antoine Guérin de Lanouville and would have 6 children, and all of them would make it to adulthood. Now, the 1681 census is so interesting, and I really searched for this, and I had to go to the Library of the Archives and Library and Archives of Canada to be able to see the official census, because if you look there, you'll see Roche and Denise. So somehow the census taker put the children of René and Françoise in with this couple. So we have Toussaint, Gilbert, François, Marianne, and then they have one gun, 7 bêtes à cornes, like horned animals, goats, or any kind of a cattle with a horn, and then 10 alpha. Our family know that they simply transpose the names of that couple, and instead of putting René and Françoise, they put Roche and Denise. So it's just really interesting, and it's important to note, like, okay, these are the same kids. And they have 10 alpha, about 8 acres of land. This is just one of those examples where you go, oh my goodness, it really does. They really are not focusing on helping us with our genealogy, are they? René would pass away in 1710 at the age of 71. He and Françoise would have been married 41 years. Françoise herself would survive until the remarkable age of 74. She would leave us. She left us only with 10 descendants. Now again, this is as of 1729, but somehow this line has survived because I have a request for it. Please, in the comments below, please let me know, because that's a really unusual 10 descendants. So I don't know if it was a mistake in the book that I used for this information, which is the Peter J. Gagne books, but for whatever reason, that's what they told me, 10 descendants. So just have a look and let me know if you are a descendant of this family. There are 2 books I want to recommend. We have Les Filles du Roi, Les Pionnières de Montréal, and this is in French. La Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi, a tremendous organization. And we also have in English a wonderful book about Montreal, The Women of Ville-Marie, Pioneers of 17th Century Montreal, written by Susan McNally, who is my colleague in Les Filles du Roi organization. She is a wonderful, incredible writer, and this book literally illuminated my understanding of Les Filles du Roi and of the period that they lived through. So please have a look at that. It's available on Amazon, and I put the link for you all to if you would like to purchase it. And so ends another remarkable life. Françoise was truly someone who wasn't afraid of a chance, and she obviously came here and was able to stay at Maison Saint-Gabriel. We have that connection, and then to the beautiful city of Montreal, and then also the fact that she was able to not only be a pioneer at Montreal, but also at Repentigny. So that in and of itself is remarkable. Another thing I want to stress is those of you who have this as an ancestor, please share with us, because as I said in the video, 10 descendants, I got to check that out and see what's that all about. Now, I want to say to Françoise, thank you for coming to our shores. Thank you for your contribution. And most of all, we bless your memory, and we are grateful that you came and helped make the tapestry that became Quebec, Canada, and ultimately North America. And I want to say thank you to my patrons and supporters as well. Without you, you are the wind beneath my wings many, many a day. So thank you ever so much. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And so I will see you on the next episode of Les Filles du Roi. Until then, au revoir.